I got that California.
Yo, what is going on, guys? You got your boy Aaron 2for20 here, bringing you guys MattOshea's ICBA Week 4 game against CJ Beasley, coach of the Philly Phiones. Now, Matt is, of course, resting his beautiful voice because, let's face it, the voice of an angel only comes when you treat it properly. And Matt has been overexerting it a little bit, so of course he's having me take over for this game. Completely understandable. Matt, of course, he's a great guy, and you guys should make sure that if you're not already, you subscribe to Matt. Hit the subscribe button and that like button, of course, as Matt will appreciate you guys cheeky dancing all over it. Matt will also appreciate the Weeb reference because he's the one person that comments always saying that he loves that. So I know that Matt will appreciate you guys doing that for him. It's the least that you MattOshea fans can do for Matt while he is resting in this troubling time. So Matt wanted me to record this game. As I said, his voice is a little sore. So question of the day, I guess I'll ask that as well because I do the layout, of course, on the screen. Who is your favorite athlete, sport, or team, or do you not watch sports, and why? And personally, I'm in the do not watch sports camp. I prefer my games, in terms of competitive games, to involve lots of hacks and people screaming that they deserve to be luckier. So that's just my take on it. Now, I'll get into the 6 mons that were brought here. Matt did post his team, of course, which is very helpful for us. So Matt's first spread is Mega Gallade with Drain Punch, Poison Jab, Knockoff, and Swords Dance. Matt mentioned that Mega Gallade always 2 kills Fizz Def Florges after leftovers. At +2 it always OHKOs, of course. +2 always 2 kills things like Fizz Def Mega Aggron, unless he would legitimately need 2 minerals to not OHKO it, well, to not 2KO it. The speed is to guarantee outpace Galvantula, which is a very important speed tier, of course, because if you can outpace, let's say, versus Galvantula, you can always just possibly take it on, especially if you can break the sash beforehand. You can probably just kill it, which is a very important calc, of course, especially if webs are not already up. And he does definitely have a fair amount of mons that, at least on paper, can take advantage of webs. I haven't exactly scrolled through the team yet, but just peeping right now, it looks like he does actually have removal, which is very important for Matt, of course, this matchup, because webs would be so awful for Matt if they ever did stay up. He's never 2KO'd by Timid, no boosting Dark Pulse from Darkrai, which is actually really, really impressive, to be honest. That's a pretty incredible calc. He has a fair amount of, well, not a ton of bulk, but he has a little bit of SPDF and HP. So that's definitely surprising. No boosting, I'm assuming that also means no Life Orb boosting, though, so it's a little more understandable. Max special attack, Timid Florges Moonblast is a 1 in 16 chance to OHKO. And it sort of seems like that's not necessarily a worry on Matt's part, because otherwise I'm sure he would have taken a little bit more, maybe, to just invest to live that hit guaranteed. I personally sort of agree. I think Matt's gonna probably be more worried about a Fizz Def spread anyway, which is completely understandable. I could very, very well just see Fizz Def coming. I don't see special offense coming at all. Next up, he has Suffer in his Zapdos with it guarantees 2KO max SPDF Bold Milotic. I am pretty sure that that's important for something later on that we'll get into in terms of max SPDF Bold. I'm assuming that he probably also just couldn't afford to necessarily OHKO Calm anyway, but he can always avoid never being OHKO'd by Darkrai, Timid, Life Orb, Ice Beam as well. So maybe the Dark Pulse was in case of Life Orb as well. That might make sense, just because he's calcing 1 mon for Life Orb Darkrai and another one not for Life Orb Darkrai. That'd be a little bit weird, but again, I'm not overly sure. Speed is for Adamant Garbodor, which is completely understandable, of course. That's a very nice mod to just make sure you break, especially with the fact that it's not going to make contact, so you don't have to worry about Aftermath, which is really nice. He can also outpace Modest Florges, of course, and the rest is in Fizz Def, which is pretty understandable. He's playing a very physically offensive team. Doesn't necessarily look like it by the mons on paper, but a few of the mons that were otherwise in the draft were pretty physically offensive. So it's completely understandable, of course. Things like Mega Aggron, of course, if he's going to be checking that with Thunderbolt. Since he doesn't have Heat Wave on his spread, he has Thunderbolt, Roost, HP Ice, and U-Turn. So it makes sense that he definitely wants to be Fizz Def, because obviously it's not going to kill it really quickly, even if he had a Heat Wave, to be fair. So completely understandable. He can obviously take out everything that he needs to. HP Ice is there for just Zygarde, which makes sense, especially with the Fizz Def. He can definitely take that thing on. Next up, he has a Scarf Greninja with Dark Pulse, U-Turn, Gunk Shot, and Ice Beam. He wanted Gren to make sure that he can guarantee outpace Zygarde no matter what, which is which is very fair and smart. Gunk shots and Florges, which is great. It'll always OHKO max HP, no Viz Def Florges, so this might have been sort of around the route if his opponent maybe ran a special offensive set, or even just a specially defensive set to take on other Greninja variants that were not Gunk Shot. So that makes sense. U-Turn is just nice momentum, and it will always, of course, take on Darkrai really well. Dark Pulse is just for other things on the team. Ice Beam, he also considered running Spikes in this spot, or T-Spikes, but he wasn't really sure. He just felt that Ice Beam is weird, because while it can invite Teeny and Milotic, it's a great way to take out Zygarde. And Zygarde's a little bit nasty for Matt's team, of course, if he can get set up, and Donphan is gone. It's definitely a terrifying mon. So I get why he's running coverage for it. Luckily for Matt, Victini never came, and I'm a little bit surprised by that, just looking at Matt's team, because a mixed Victini could have actually been really nasty, or maybe like Glaciate, V-Create coverage for Donphan besides Glaciate, because it won't do a lot, and then like a Psychic move or something. It could have been pretty terrifying versus Matt's full roster. So I'm a little bit shocked to not see it, but obviously it's better for Matt, I feel like. So anyway, that should be it for Greninja. Next up, there's Sizzle and the Salazzle with Nasty Plot, Flame Charge, Sludge Wave, and Flamethrower. This, in my opinion, is a very nice set versus his opponent's team, because it can break a lot of things just really effortlessly. He almost took off, he mentioned that he almost took off HP Ice for Nasty Plot, but he seems to have had Nasty Plot in the spread he sent me, at least. So I'm not really sure what that is for. He almost took off Life Orb for a Sash, though, which, again, he has Sash, so I think he sort of meant to invert that. Yeah, oh yeah, he says, fuck it, I'm gonna do that, so that sort of makes sense. Okay, so that sort of makes sense of why he said that. Alright, so, yeah, shout out to Matt. I think that's honestly better, because realistically at +2, he's still gonna do a ton of damage to Zygarde with Flamethrower, and he has better responses anyway with things like HPI Zapdos, which isn't the best, but of course he also has Scarf Ground, which will always be a response. He has a couple other mons later on that handle it, so it really didn't make sense to necessarily run HP Ice and Salazzle. I think Nasty Plot is a very good choice, because it'll get around Milotic pretty well. So yeah. Anyway, next up is Rocky Helm and Donphan with Stealth Rock, Earthquake, Ice Shard, and Rapid Spin. Great Victini check, especially for V-Create. Matt also mentions here that it's for things like Arrow, Delmise, Aggron, etc. in terms of just taking helmet damage. Ice Shard is great for Zygarde. EQ is great for the rest of his team besides like Delmise. He's got to keep up Rocks, of course, and not let him have any, which is completely understandable, or he brought Rapid Spin for just Defog. Because Rocks actually, on paper, really hurt his team. In terms of these mons, it really only hurts Galvantula. But again, mentioned Victini earlier, it would have been great for that. Even pre-Mega versus like Sturdy, because if, let's say, he swapped in a non-Mega Aggron and had to take Rock Chip, it could potentially even just kill it right on the spot. Because Mega Aggron is far more Spadef, or even just Fizdef in general. So that could have been pretty nice if he got that kill early on, assuming it was there, because that would have been a decent threat, not necessarily to things like Salazzle or Mega Gallade, but it would have been great for mons like Greninja, for example. It would have also been great for just, to an extent, the Donphan, but not overly. More so for like Ment, though, even Zapdos a little bit. Finally, though, speaking of Ment, we have a Z-Fly Salamence with Earthquake, Fly, Dragon Claw, and Dragon Dance. The spread is just meant to not die to no special attack Florges, and it speed ties with Victini. It's literally just 252. It was sort of Matt's best spring this game, so I definitely agree with that. Because a Scarf Glaciate Victini, if ever did outpace a +1 Ment, which obviously if you ran any slower would guarantee outpace, would have been very, very terrifying for Matt. Obviously he could have ran enough bulk to live it, but that's also hoping that maybe he can get like a crit or something, which would obviously put Matt in a worse position. Now, as you can see, his opponent brings Galvantula, Delmise, Zygarde 10%, Florges, Milotic, and Darkrai. So Matt left a couple notes. He just wanted to mention real quick, I'll get into the second point in the actual game when it comes up, but the first point, Matt just said that he felt like he played really bad, and he didn't make the predictions he would normally go for. So, just, I guess I wanted to throw that out there, just a little bit of insight for anyone watching in the game. This will actually be my first time watching as well, so I'll sort of get a fresh set of eyes on it, I guess, from someone who wasn't, like a hindsight view, I guess, is the best way to put it. So without further ado, though, let's just get right into the game. If I was in Matt's position, I would definitely expect the Galvantula lead here. It makes a lot of sense versus his team. And it seems like Matt tried to lead off with Salazzle. That, in my opinion, was a great lead for Matt. It would have, well, yeah, in my opinion, that's a great lead. And as you can see, the Galvantula was the lead here, which just makes a lot of sense. As I said, webs are very terrifying versus Matt's team. And we see actually a Scarf Galvantula. That's a pretty good set, to be honest. I think it does a lot versus like non-Scarf Grind, for example. Obviously, it was great, did a ton of damage to Salazzle, probably has HP Ice or something for the Salamence. But luckily, Matt was able to get off a Flame Charge here, which was able to be a really nice way to just get around any sort of fast ones that swapped in. Sadly, Darkrai swapped in, so I'm not necessarily sure if Matt will even be able to kill a Sledge Wave, but at the same time, he's going to take a lot of damage from rocks, where he's pretty much not living any hit. So it seems like Matt sort of just was inclined to sack here, and yeah, this sort of makes sense. Darkrai obviously claims a kill. His switches, to be fair, weren't exactly great to Darkrai, so it's understandable. And obviously, Greninja does come in for free now, which is at the very least really nice for Matt. Now, CJ does switch out of his Darkrai here, and he goes into J Arietta, which is his Florges. And Matt decides to just click U-turn here. Pretty safe play for Matt. Obviously, it was to be expected that either Florges or Milotic came in, and this was a really nice middle ground, because really anything else would have been completely fucked over if it came in. So, of course, by switching into Mega Gallade here, obviously we know from the team builder that Matt is able to live any hit from the Florges, and he can possibly just SD up, or even just raw Poison Jab, which no matter what will be very nice for Matt in terms of just killing off this Florges, which is one really annoying wall for his team, especially with Wish possibilities. So we see the Poison Jab go off here, and CJ actually brings a Cabia Berry Florges, which I think is a pretty nice bring, because overall CJ's team was very, very weak to SD Mega Gallade. So it's completely understandable. However, he's going to die to another Poison Jab, and as we can see, Matt will live the Moonblast, not entirely comfortably, but he can at least come in another set of rocks and still pick off Florges if he needs to. Now, we see that the Zygarde comes in hard here, and that's a pretty good play on CJ's part. Obviously, he's going to take a Poison Jab pretty well, but it is still a Zygarde 10%, so it is still a frail Mon. But Matt does get a quarter off. Sadly, no Poison. That would have been really nice. It still is really important for Matt to preserve the Mega Gallade, of course, so he's going to switch in Goodyear here. Completely understandable. Obviously, it's going to take an Outrage really well. It's going to take Arrows as well, but more so I was mentioning Outrage first, because if you go for Outrage or even E-Speed, it's going to take Helmet, which is really nice as well. And Donphan can, of course, possibly get up his Rocks here, which will be great for chipping things like Alvangelo, which seem to be just a Scarf set, which will be, of course, really good to just keep momentum for CJ, but having Rocks will just make it take like 24% every time. Matt actually decides to have swapped out here to Mega Gallade. Now, I'm not necessarily sure how I feel about this play, but at the very least, I mean, it did get Matt in a good position to get a knockoff versus the Delmise, but it was definitely a little bit risky to say the least. Now, luckily for Matt, he was able to pop the Colbert Berry. However, it's going to sack the Mega Gallade here, which is really unfortunate. However, again, it wasn't overly able to do a ton at this point. It was really just able to get off another hit versus one of the walls. If it was Florges, it could have obviously killed, but otherwise, anything else would have taken the hit, it seems like, at this point. At the very least, though, Matt is able to bring his Salamence here, which is going to be a very nice mon in terms of just everything left. Really, only Milotic can truly take a hit at this point, because everything else is so worn down already. Of course, Galvantula could outpace because of its Scarf that we've already seen from turn 1. And we see that the Milotic is actually a Flame Orb set this week, which is actually a pretty nice bring for the Mets. However, I feel like that's going to really hurt it versus Matt's special threats in this team. So we see that Matt does go hard to Donphan here. I'm not necessarily sure why Matt did this. I feel like that, in general, just getting up Rocks would have been fine later on to do. It doesn't necessarily make sense to just sack the Donphan here. I feel like, at the same time, I mean, at least, like, Greninja didn't get Toxic, but still was definitely a really weird play. Oh yeah, so, just in general, at this point in the game, something that is obviously worth noting is that not having Salazzle here would have definitely helped in this case scenario, because obviously Salazzle couldn't have gotten Toxic. And not only wouldn't have not been able to get Toxic, but he could have possibly set up a Nasty Plot. I'm certain that Matt could have at least possibly lived one Scald with his Salazzle, and then just went for a Nasty Plot and broken the Milotic completely. However, he does still have Zapdos, but the issue with Zapdos is that if Matt doesn't just predict the Zygarde coming in and click HP Ice, of course Zapdos will outpace, and having already taken Ice Beam, that's taking a lot of damage, and that plus maybe like a Banded Arrows will probably take it out, to be honest. So, it's definitely going to hurt Matt a lot. It seems like Matt's already in a pretty bad position, just with the Flame Orb Milotic, plus Florges just being able to Wish Up later on versus slower things on Matt's team. So it's a little bit of a bad position, though Matt can obviously still muscle past. He's a really good player. So we see Matt go for the Thunderbolt here, which was a really safe play. However, if Zygarde came in, it was definitely a little bit risky, but luckily he went for the Thunderbolt. I feel like that overall, just getting that chip on the floor just was very, very nice. So we see the Hidden Power Ice go off now. That was definitely really good in case of a Zygarde coming in. However, the floor just lives in like 1 HP, which is actually just ridiculous. And Zapdos is now going to get worn down so much, and only having like 67%. That's pretty bad for Zapdos because it really just needs to stay healthy the entire time. So Matt's of course going to go for Roost here. Completely understandable. However, this will definitely give Florges some recovery opportunities, and Matt definitely does not beat the Florges 1v1. So we see a Synthesis go off. I'm a little bit surprised to see no Wish on the Florges. I felt like that would have been very nice for things like Delmise this game. But, I mean, Synthesis is still, of course, a really fast recovery option just to keep Florges healthy as much as possible. So that's definitely understandable why he would have brought it. It just seems a little more selfish rather than just wish passing through the rest of the team. We see Matt go for Thunderbolt here, which still does a fair amount. However, CJ can obviously just Synthesis up at this point. And Matt doesn't exactly have good switches to Florges at this point either. So it seems almost like he's trying to bank on a Para or just stall out Synthesis, which is not exactly a good position. Again, this is one of those areas where having Salazzle around would have been great, because unless that Florges had like a Psychic move or something, which obviously it does get Psychic coverage, but unless if it had that, it wouldn't have really been able to, like, he really couldn't have done anything. And since the Kebia Berry popped as well, I mean, I guess because he had Kebia Berry, he might have had Psychic coverage, but even then, it was probably more so just for Gallade. Now, we see the Zapdos get Toxic, which is awful for it. Having Zapdos Toxic is probably one of the worst things that could happen. Though again, as mentioned earlier, Matt doesn't exactly have good switches to Florges either. So it seems like at this point, Matt has opted to sack Goodyear, which is completely understandable. He obviously just needs to get Greninja here and go for a Gunk Shot. It's really Matt's only chance of actually pulling through at this point in the game, just because of how much Florges is just going to sit here and decimate him. Because if it wasn't for the fact that Gren is Protean Greninja, he could have probably honestly just got 6-0'd at this point because of Florges. Now, it seems like Matt is going for an Ice Shard, possibly to catch a Zygarde switch in, but it seems more likely just to get off any damage before he just died to a Moonblast, which is completely understandable. I'm not sure if the crit mattered, I'm not going to lie, I don't think it did. But as we see here, Greninja now comes in, and it seems like Matt's only play would be to click Gunk Shot at this point. Now, we see Matt go for the Gunk Shot, of course, and obviously Protean's going to make him Poison type, which will be great for other hits later on. And luckily it does connect, because if that didn't connect, Matt would have been in a very, very bad position. Of course, he would have been a Poison type, so had CJ predicted that and clicked Psychic move just in case, then his Greninja would have been out of the game and he could have legitimately gotten 6-0 by Florges. So, very good on Matt's part. However, Milotic does come in here, and with the Flame Orb, it's going to definitely take a Gunk Shot. So Matt will have to hard swap out because he is Scarfed and go right into Suffering. Now, luckily, even another Ice Beam won't kill the Zapdos, which is pretty good for Matt. And as we see here, he takes an okay amount, but with the Toxic, he's going to definitely get outstalled by things like the, well, not necessarily by the Milotic, but at the very least, that Toxic's going to wear him down very, very quickly. Of course, we do know that CJ does still have his Delmise left as well. We see that he actually just opts to stay in, which is a little bit of a weird play just because of how important Milotic is. However, he does still go for a recover. It seems like a very, very quick way to just lose Milotic. Between the Flame Orb and the Thunderbolt damage, he's not exactly going to keep this thing around versus Zapdos. Of course, Zapdos will end up being very worn down for whatever wants to come in with a Starcry or Galvantula, but it seems like just sacking such an important Mon doesn't seem like a good play to me, personally. It seems like Milotic could be very important for Walling Mixling Ments later on, so it seems a little bit risky. Of course, now he does opt to switch into Zygarde, which is completely understandable at this point in the game. Matt has obviously seemed to have shown that he's going to opt for Thunderbolts. However, Matt actually makes a really good read here, and this is sort of one of the few aggressive plays that Matt actually made this game by clicking HP Ice. Killing the Zygarde, that's actually pretty big for Matt. However, of course, Zapdos is going to be really weakened, and as mentioned, Galvantula or Darkrai can just come in and kill this thing off at this point. Rocks will wear down as well if CJ was to get them up. I forget if CJ actually has them up or not, but regardless, Galvantula does still a lot of damage at this point in the game because it is a Scarf set. So we're going to have to see what's going to happen. Of course, we see the Thunder go off, and that's going to kill the Zapdos, and Zapdos will be dead. So just Salamence and Greninja left. Greninja luckily is Scarfed, so it can still have Pace. And Salamence, if it gets boosted, will put in a lot of work. However, the Galvantula would still need to go down, of course, because it would have Pace. And probably has HP Ice or something. We see the U-turn go off, which is pretty nice play on Matt's end. Just trying to get some nice chip. However, just going right for the kill would have probably been the best play that Matt could have done there. Because having Galvantula gone means that Salamence can just go for the sweep and pop a Z-move versus Milotic being the one wall left and it's around half. And just win the game. We see a Thunder go off, and it gets a crit. It doesn't seem like that would have necessarily mattered unless if CJ missed a Thunder, because the fact that another Thunder would have definitely killed at this point in the game. So, Thunder goes off, Mence is now dead, and it's just Greninja left versus the world. And Greninja definitely cannot do enough damage no matter what move it clicks in its arsenal. Gunk Shot obviously will not touch the Milotic at this point in the game, and even then he would need to hit 4 of them. So it seems like Matt has opted to go for Dark Pulse here. Completely understandable, obviously. At this point, it's just going to give Matt the best differential possible. If he maybe gets like a crit or something versus Darkrai, maybe there's a chance to kill. We see that Milotic comes in here. I'm not necessarily sure why he brought this in versus maybe going Darkrai and hoping to be able to hit. Because obviously, the Greninja will most likely kill the Milotic with Dark Pulse. I'm actually shocked that it didn't kill there, I'm going to be honest. I really thought it would have. But, I mean, I guess that's just expecting Life Orb damage versus Scarf damage on Greninja, because Scarf is pretty pitiful damage. So, it seems like Matt really just trying to go for flinch at this point, because if he does get a flinch, he will definitely just clean up this game, assuming that Darkrai dies. And luckily, he does actually get the flinch there, which is pretty incredible for Matt. I mean, Matt is, of course, the luckiest and best player I know, and, you know, skill does correlate with luck. Good players get these flinches. They clearly are going to win Matt the game. Oh my god. That is absolutely just disgusting. 2 game-changing flinches. I could have sworn I saw him actually mention something in the chat about this. I don't know why I'm really surprised by this. But damn, that's going to suck for CJ. That game was legitimately CJ's to have. And the fact that he's going to lose to those Dark Pulse flinches sucks. Because obviously the Delmise is going to die to Dark Pulse. It's pretty obvious. And unless if Darkrai somehow lives, he's completely out of the game at this point. And even then, Darkrai would need to click like a Thunderbolt or just some other... Actually, not even Thunderbolt. He would need to click a Focus Blast at this point to kill. And yeah, seeing how weak Darkrai is, there's no way it's going to live a Dark Pulse. So Matt actually really clutched this game out with those Dark Pulse flinches. Oh my god. Well, it seems like that he's done really nice in terms of just cleaning up with Greninja. So I mean, I'll take it. Good job from Matt getting another win. You know, keeping up the streak. Another thing that I also actually forgot to mention was Matt also wanted to mention that it was terrible to let Mega Glade go as early as he did. Though, I didn't necessarily bring it up at the time because I didn't want to criticize that play, because it seemed like the really smart play of Matt to do to burn the Kebia Berry if it was there. And even then, at that point, knowing Matt's prep, it seemed really functional in Matt to just keep Galliard in versus the Florges and just go for 2 poison jabs and kill it off. Because had Florges gone down really early, that would open up a lot of opportunities for Grande, for example, never need to click Gunk Shot again. And he could just spam Dark Pulse versus the rest of CJ's team. He would have also had Salamence to go pretty offensively this game as well, because Florges wouldn't have had to worry about Wish Passing for CJ. So it would have just been Milotic, and he could have popped the Z-move on Milotic, of course, because Delmise would have just died to a normal fly. So, I wasn't necessarily against that play for Matt. I think definitely letting go of Salazzle was pretty detrimental, and honestly, I'm shocked that Matt won this game. I think that was a pretty awful play on Matt's part. It seemed like Matt also agreed that it was a pretty awful play on his part. But other than that, I mean, he seemed to have really picked it up in the end game, playing really well. Nice predictions with Zapdos, of course. We should have just kept those early, like, aggressive predictions. They would have really carried Matt above just a 1-0 win. That came down to Dark Pulse flinches of all things. So, of course, Matt did still win the game. That's all that matters at the end of the day. Best players get the best amount of hacks, and clearly that's what happened with Matt. So, you guys are going to make sure to leave a like from Matt. He'll get lucky next week if you do. He'll also get better next week if you leave likes and leave some really supportive comments, because I know that you guys all love Matt, and if you leave supportive comments, it'll make him feel good. So let's do that. Also, make sure to comment down telling him that Aki is better than Neko, because I gotta throw that in there, because I know Matt will throw in something saying otherwise. And if Matt silences me, I'll comment down this as well down below regardless. Until then, this has been your boy AA2 for 20. I'm signing out. Thank you guys for checking out yet another MattOshea video, and we will see you guys later.